All right, here I spent a ton of time on this podcast. I've recorded it multiple times trying to get it right. It's real important, and I think it is very accurate. I've been accurate for 2 seasons now doing this thing, and this will be my third, and I expect to be accurate again. Now, this is great news for Dolphins fans. Year after year, we're told this is the year. Remember, Sue, Gase, and every single guy, every single event. But this is truly a point, a crossroads where success is a legitimate possibility. Now, you're going to hear that, we're going to be successful for this, this, and this. And I believe some of these things are correct. But I'm going to show you why we are actually so close and then dial it in to the key component that the Dolphins must improve on. And it's going to be the foundation in which the Dolphins are going to have success through the season and then actually have legit success in the postseason, because that's what this season is about. This season is all about postseason success. Now, there's a lot of factors. Football is ultra nuanced. And, if somebody says it's just this one thing, well, yeah, if you score more points than the other team, it's one thing. But the lead up to that is very nuanced. So I'm going to show you here a bunch of stats, the deficiencies of the 2022 Dolphins. And you're going to see, wow, we appear to have improved in a whole bunch. And as you keep boiling it down, it's going to come to this one point that I've been talking about. I'm going to spend a lot more time talking about it after that. So if you take a look at our pass defense from 2000, we've added Ramsey. We brought back Needham, who hopefully will be healthy. Kohu's in his second season. And you got Fangio. And hopefully Howard will be healthy this season. And I do believe the adding plenty of zoning is going to be less taxing on his body, and I believe it's going to help his likelihood or chances of being healthy. So all this together is going to influence what I'm going to tell you. And that pass defense, 28th worst, 2022. Third down conversion prevention on your defense, 26th worst in 2022. Takeaways, 29th worst in 2022. All the factors I mentioned before, as well as the development of the front that we have, adding certain guys like Long, Phillips taking another level, Chubb hopefully being healthy and taking another level, bringing back Van Ginkel to be depth, and on and on. It's all going to boost this major deficit. That's clear. We all kind of know it, but I wanted to dial it in. That a huge portion, because there's Dolphin fans just don't believe. Guys, you have to understand, there's Dolphin fans who saw the perfect season and have waited since that time to see legitimate success. And so anytime they hear, well, this is the year, they've heard that for 40, 50 years. So you have to understand their standpoint. But this is a massive upgrade and truly offers real, non-hopium potential. Okay, let's get to the offense. Deficiencies on the 2022 offense. All right, third down conversions. With all the talent we brought in, we were 24th worst in 2022. That's clearly got to change. Time of possession, 25th worst, 2022. 13th in giveaways, least. And I want to hold on to that there a little bit because it's a good stat for us. But what I'm going to dial into, it's going to take it a little step further. Okay? Plays per game on offense, 24th. And that lends into the time of possession. Okay, so we sort of, I'm going to get to, I talked about the defense and why it's uplifted. I'm going to get to the offense in the main portion. But I want to talk about a few other things that are critical to the success in 2023. Okay? And obviously, penalties. We had 29th most. We were shooting ourselves in the foot with the Gatling gun, and it all culminated into that failure with the last few seconds or a minute of that Bills game. It was a festering wound that just oozed like a volcano all over the season. But that 29th, a lot of that had to do with the defense making flaws. Fangio is going to help that a ton, especially with, I don't want to get too much, but when you bring Jalen Ramsey in and you have some of these other players like Long, you don't have to switch back and forth. And a lot of times you got problems when guys are coming back. You're not going to have to be shuttling guys in out as much. And Fangio is going to help with that. That's going to mitigate that side. But clearly the side that hurt us was the McDaniel failures to bring discipline. Some people want to blame the players. Some people want to blame Fangio. I blame them both. But it's got to start at the top. But the good news is that with Fangio there, with a second season for McDaniel, and again, what I'm going to talk about in a minute, it should at least bring these under control. And you're going to see that 29th, it should rise dramatically. And that's going to change our fortunes intensely if it does indeed change. Now, I'm not doing special teams. I try to get into it. I can't. I'm a total football snob. I was when I played. Kickers. You always love them when they do their thing, but you don't really think about it. So there's a special team area where I'm not going to really talk about, and that's going to be critical, but I'll leave that for somebody else. And then lastly, Tua's health. Whatever you say, Tua is better than Skyler, even if you're not a Tua guy. Tua is critical to this season. His health is critical. And if you break down his injuries, you can go here and go there. But the reality is, every time the quarterback throws the football, they're in a lottery. And this is going to further add to my point, and you know where I'm probably heading, a little bit of offensive line, but not as much as you think, more about the running game. But this is not about becoming the 70s Dolphins. I've thought about it. I've studied it. And I'm going to show you clearly that we are really on the edge of getting where we need to in this run game. And if we do, it's going to raise, a rising boat raises, a rising tide. That's it. Rising tide raises all boats. This rushing attack, improving to a certain level and not, top 10, is going to raise all the other boats of issues of 2022. And I'm going to explain why. All right, so last year, 2022, our rushing was bad. Our rush yards were 27th. Yards per carry, 23. A little bit better. It was a little bit of blip above the disgusting. Not good, but still a rise. 26 in carries. 28th in first down runs. So basically, if you're a defensive coordinator and you go, you know what, we're going to go stop the pass, 3 out of 4 times you'd be right. And that's a winning formula. 29th in rush TDs. And on first downs gained by the run, 28th. So we were ultra predictable. We were ultra ineffective in the run game. But what is the level that we need to rise to? There's people out there, me, not a big fan of Eichenberg and Hindenburg. Some people call us. I can't stop laughing about that. Or Jackson. Or some people doubt my man Tehran, even though he'll miss a couple of games, but that guy will play through, being dipped in a vat of acid and come out and play great. But, he might miss a couple of games. The guy's a stud. And then Connor and Hunt, everyone's kind of on board. Those guys are good. But, fairly, a lot of people worried about left guard, right tackle, and depth. I kind of have a heavy emphasis on the external blockers, the secondary blockers of the running backs and tight ends, most notably tight end. And we'll get to that. But the journey to where we need to go to get the run game we need is not as far as you think. And it's entirely plausible, possible, and it's going to start with what we do in this draft. So I'm going to give a quick thanks to you guys for stopping by. I appreciate all you do. I want to give you a shout out. Shout out to Ace Spread, my sponsor, because without the two of you, this show ain't going down. Ace Spread's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. Okay, so postseason is our aim. We made the postseason last year, which was phenomenal. Let's look at the postseason and try to dial in, is this run game really as critical as Curtis is making out to be? I'm sure most of us, after watching the San Fran Charger game, Bills 1 and 2, we're pretty aware that it is critical. But let's analyze how critical it is and what level is really where we need to get to. Now, if you go through the postseason, I'll go round by round, you'll notice the teams that usually had the better run game, more effective run game, was the team that won. I'm going to hit on a few key points during these games just to keep your mind locked on it is what I'm making it out to be. Now, Chargers came out hot, scoring with the pass, and had a massive lead, and then they utterly collapsed as the Jaguars came back with the run game, took control, and ultimately squeaked out a win because the Chargers couldn't run the football. They were under intense pressure because they kept on throwing all day. Our Dolphins, we understand that. I got some heat going into the playoff game about the offensive line. I was told, give credit to this offensive line. They put a lot of run yards the week before, and they ended up laying a massive egg, whether it was because McDaniel didn't make the right calls or they couldn't do it, whatever. We had 40 yards on the ground or something. And we lost to the Bills, who were able to run semi-effectively. And we still almost pulled it out if it wasn't for that weird clock thing. But if we had run the ball even mediocre, it would have been our day, and the clock thing wouldn't even come into effect. So those were two key games, two notable games. And then now the division round, Jags injure Mahomes, Jags run the football, and it looks like Jags are going to the next round. But Andy Reid, Mr. Fumble, decides to do something crazy. Mahomes doesn't get back into the next half, I believe it was, and they start using Pacheco. They start going pre-pass balance, almost conventional, and they run themselves to a victory. Then the Bengals, who are fumble extraordinaires, even if their quarterback is getting eviscerated, they come out with a beat-up offensive line, bring their big boys in the snow, which is like basic 1+1 football, and run the snot out of the Bills, who, for some odd reason, being a home team in bad territory, bad environments, decide to play fun ball, and it goes ugly for them. And the run game brought the victory there as well. Now, San Fran run team, made it to the conference championship. I'm not going to cover them because they had no quarterback. I think they were calling me up, hey, can you play some QB? This was not even a game to analyze just because it was so lopsided with the quarterback situation. But the Bengals, who won the prior week through the running game, came out and wanted to go fumble again. And the Chiefs, who had a hobbled Mahomes, relied on Pacheco again, and ran themselves to another win. I'm not going to put the graphic up here, but we know the Super Bowl. Eagles go to the Super Bowl, one of the top teams, running teams in the league, like 150 yards a game, and they decide, hey, you know what? We're gonna copy the Josh Allen mold and let him be Superman, and they don't use their running backs. Pacheco gets unveiled a little bit more towards the end of the first half, early second half, and runs Kansas City from behind and a deficit to pull out the victory. And Eagles, with a great offensive line, decide just to keep throwing the football, keep running Hurts, and they lose. And this is very reminiscent of what happened with the Chargers versus the Jags in the wild card game. So you could see there was a tenor of the run game being critical. And it didn't have to be, the 90s Dallas Cowboys. And it was oddly the Chiefs, who are fumble extraordinaires, who went to this situation of running the football more, that allowed them to have their second victory. If it wasn't for Pacheco and it wasn't for this decision by Andy Reid, most notably in the second half, I believe it was of the Super Bowl, they wouldn't have won. And so it's very clear. We're not in fun ball league anymore. Clearly, the pass game is accentuated, and it's the way to go, but not to the extremes it's been. We are now past balance. It's very, very clear. So let's take a further look at this image. I spent a lot of time on it. I don't expect you to, I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but I leave it here for you to analyze and to consider, because I do believe that there's quality information here. And I have the teams that pass the most to the left, all the teams in the NFL, teams that pass the most to pass the least, or, and the ones at the bottom obviously ran the most. But you'll see all the teams in boxes are ones that made the playoffs. And the dispersion here shows that teams that ran a lot or passed a lot made the playoffs. There's no one size that fits all. But as we dial it in, you'll see that there is a little indication on something. Now, the boxes in red, teams that got knocked out in the wild card. Teams in orange got knocked out in the division round. Teams in the brown got knocked out the conference round, and the teams in the green made the Super Bowl. And a quick observation, you'll see the teams that passed the most mostly had poor run games and were knocked out early. Cincinnati was an anomaly, but their game they won is the one where they ran a ton and outran their opponent. And then Seahawks, conversely, they're a running football team, and they couldn't run much, and they lost. So it's not 100%, but 5 out of the 7 teams that threw a ton, they were booted out, and they couldn't run the football. Now, KC is the anomaly, but we know that it was Pacheco, the injury to Mahomes, that drove them to their second championship. Now, I'm going to dial it in here a little bit. And this is the same chart that you saw, and I'm going to have 3 levels here, or 4 levels, to kind of emphasize what I'm trying to show you. And same ratio, so these are all the playoff teams, and who passed most or who passed least. Next column over is yards per carry. You could call that run efficiency. Rush yards, that would be the rush yards, the bulk, the volume of their run production. And then last, how much the QBs added to this run efficiency and run total. Okay? So you can look this over if you want, but I'm going to focus mostly on KC and Miami. They're back-to-back. It wasn't planned, but what it shows is the philosophy of run and pass balance is similar. They won the Super Bowl. Now, they altered these numbers in the postseason. They went more to run than pass, but still, this shows that Miami is in the ballpark with their philosophy. The execution, though, is what I want to talk about. So, KC, they had the 9th best yards per carry at 4.7, 9th most efficient, 20th most or least in rush yards at 115. Now, Patrick Mahomes did affect it. He was 20% of their run total. That's a ton. But we also know that he has a tendency to run like a chicken in the backyard. And he's not running like Lamar or Jones or Allen or even Smith. He's not a guy that's putting his body out there. He just runs around a lot and then finds the hole and gets through there. But still, 20% is a solid amount. That's about 20 yards per game. So if you take 20% and you look at the rush yards, you take 20 yards off, it's at 95, which is exactly where Miami would be with their backs. So we're in their level as far as generating yards. The only thing we didn't have is the running quarterback to get those extra yards. But for me and for Tua, I'm going to dial in why this is good news for Tua. We don't want Tua doing that. We don't want him getting injured. And I personally believe it's a waste of his skill set. Now, on occasion, for him to slip out and to get something, that's nice. But we're not basing, and we should not base our offense on that. But we're in the general production overall. We just got to get another 15 to 20 yards per game, and we would actually match KC's production. And to me, it'd be more valuable if your running backs can get it than Mahomes. So it's the yards per carry. This is the stat that I want to focus on. This is where I want to hang my hat, run efficiency. Now, KC was ninth at 4.7. You take 20% off that, and you're probably looking around 14th or 15th naturally with their running backs. Whereas the Dolphins were 23rd at 4.2. But that's their natural position. To get to that 15 spot, they need to get between 8 to 9 spots to reach that level of efficiency. But for me, it's going to be generated by the running backs. And if they can get there both in production and efficiency, it is more valuable than what KC achieved. Now, this is not an exact science, and there's some question marks of can we do that? And I'm going to get to that in a minute. But I want you to understand, look at Allen. 36% of that run production was generated from him. Lamar, 25%. Hurts, 30%. Daniel Jones, 30%. When you're getting that run production, it looks great through the season. But if you notice, the teams that are in that level did not have and have not had success. Hurts, he ran too much in the Super Bowl. They need the running backs to do more, and they didn't, and it hurt the team. Lamar didn't even make the postseason. Allen struggled. He started just totally melted down, so then you didn't have a pass game or a run game. And then Allen, he can't carry it to that level. That's absurd. And you constantly putting your quarterback in an injury lottery. Tua and the Dolphins are in position to actually have a better framework if they can get their run production up. But can they? So that's what I want to get into here. All right, so now I'm going to bring it all home, why the Dolphins really can achieve their goals. But if they don't, it's going to be very, very, very hard for them to truly reach those levels that we all want and that they want to achieve. But I do believe it's there. Now comparing them to KC could be problematic because you could just simply say, well, you know what? Even if you say Tua is good, you're not going to say he's good as Mahomes. He can't ever emulate Mahomes. But the fact that Mahomes was injured through this postseason, and that's the critical portion, anything that Mahomes did in the postseason after, early portion of the divisional game, Tua can match. So, when you look at these numbers through the course of the season, Mahomes does put the defense on its heels because they can't rush him totally all out because he can escape, and Tua can't do that. So you can say, oh, well, okay. And they had a better offensive line than the Miami Dolphins last year. But while that is true, Dolphins have as long as Tyron's healthy, it's not totally lopsided, even with Eichenberg and Jackson, who I think, we'll get into that, they can help bring a case of emergency options. And I think if they're brought in, it's going to stabilize this thing as long as Tyron's healthy. So, yeah, they still have a better offensive line, but we're not, Swiss cheese as long as Tyron's there. But we have assets that they don't. Now, Hill and Waddle, when I went into last year, I knew Tyron was critical. I knew the offensive line was critical. But I also said, I'm not certain what the deal is, what Waddle and Hill can do with that game-changing leverage. I got to see, because this is a whole new style of build where you kind of just like to the offensive line, you bring all this talent in. And while I saw some weaknesses in this through the season, I also saw some surprises I had not seen before. This is a ultra rare build when you add into his ability with that quick release and to throw to locations. Waddle and Hill alter things. They drive the defense on its heels. And that takes 3 to 4 guys and pushes them back, and that starts creating space. And when you run the zone stretch, all it takes is a little bit, and Mostert and Wilson, they can escape and they get those big chunk plays. That's really where we got it. So the receiving group does offset the lack of movement skills to match Mahomes and the difference between the two offensive line. And it's a big, big deal. If we had just simply run more, been more diverse, so DCs weren't like dialing in what we were doing and having odds-on chances to guess us, I think we would have seen more production through the season. And I do think McDaniel making the right calls. I do think the defense being better and giving us more opportunities. I do believe the lack of penalties and putting us off schedule and just the fact that we're going to run more, I believe, is going to lift a lot of this stuff up. But it's, again, the postseason. The postseason where it is all about, and things change dramatically. I'm not going to talk about health. I don't know. Who knows? I'm not Nostradamus or Karnak the Great. But if we can get in semi-healthy, get to the postseason, even if the things I just mentioned, lack of penalties and McDaniel doing better and more run opportunities, it's going to help. But the key is going to be blocking. And if our offensive line's healthy, even with, say, Eichenberg, if he improves a little bit, or a replacement to be average, and hopefully the same thing on a tackle spot, I think the front is good enough because it's such an intense moment that the threat of Hill and Waddle is going to keep guys on their heels and backing up and playing that nickel look. So it's going to come down to, obviously, the health of the offensive line, but those external blockers. And this is why, when you look at our run scheme, tight end is so critical. Go check Hill. So good at blocking in the run game. He's not driving guys off, but he's so quick he gets there and he cuts them off and he shaves off their angle, gets in the way, and sometimes even does a good job blocking him, that he's really good. Waddle's not so good. But you need that guy in there who can get to the second level. I'm not so certain that Hunt can. He's a little slow-footed. He's better drive blocking, angle cutting. Eichenberg, I don't believe he can. He can get there, but sometimes he doesn't know what he's doing or whatever. So the tight end, he's great. When you run zone stretch, you want to hit the play side, but it's the cutback and snap of the defense, which is critical. And the tight end, he plays a big part on the drive. He also plays a big part on getting to the secondary and getting that middle linebacker or getting that key block. And so it's a big reason why I believe a great look for us would be a 2 tight end set with 2 quality blockers, guys who can sort of pass catch, or one guy who could good pass catch, and then Waddle and Hill, and you could get just about. You know how many 2 receivers routes combinations we ran last year with everyone being in max block? So that we can pass out of a 2 wide receiver set if we got 2 quality tight ends. Tana, I don't know. I'm not really, banking on him. Salbert. He was a good blocker 2 years ago. Not so good last year. Not so certain on his pass catching. But, we'll see. I don't know if he's quick enough to get over there. But what if he gets injured or nicked? And I'm kind of putting some hope there. And Smythe, he's a good pass blocker, but not a run blocker and not a great threat in the pass game. But if you can take the guys that we have and add 1 extra guy who can block decently, if better than that would be unbelievable, and then go out to routes, you can get that flow and cut, and you'd have the defense on their heels, and it would force them out of the nickel and put us back in position to score quickly and to get big pass plays. But we can't drive guys out of the nickel, and we can't get the critical downs, and we're not going to find probably a lineman that's going to help us this year in this draft, in the rounds we're at, based on what we're seeing the talent is. It's all about the tight end. This is a deep draft for tight end. We need a tight end, and to get run efficiency, we need to get better tight end play. If Tana, Salbert, and Smythe don't step up. And so this is why I'm pegging the tight end to help us with our run efficiency. Now, run efficiency is going to go across the board with all our failings that are not, even on defense a little bit. Because, guys, look, offensive third down conversions, 24th. And we were, what was it? First downs, rushing first downs, 27th. So if you start getting rushing first downs, you put confusion on people's mind, you're going to get more third down conversions. And by getting more third down conversions, you're going to lower the time of possession, increase the plays per game, rest the defense, and then create real confusion and doubt as what the offense is going to do. And now you're going to play, I have initiative on offense. I can pass. I can run. What are you going to do? And this is going to boost all the penalties, because you're not, if you run more, then you're not going to have all this motion, all this stuff, and you're going to take them out of the lottery for going full or offside or illegal procedure or whatever. You're going to take Tua out of the lottery, getting hit, because it's not going to be all about him. And teams are going to buy the play action rollout where they don't at all now. It's going to enhance everything. And the giveaways. Our giveaways are pretty good, but you start running the football more, as long as you don't fumble it on the carpet, it's going to lower that too. It's going to enhance every single thing that we struggle at on offensive side, and it's going to boost this team to the level where we can compete with Casey. And in fact, why I talked about the offense, our defense this year, on paper, the way it appears, is better than last year's Kansas City defense. This is tying it all together, but it's going to come to this run efficiency. You don't want to run a lot unless, it's towards the end of the game, you got a big lead and all this other stuff. But generally speaking, with the talent you got, you want to throw it. We were able to do it, but we clearly were so deficient in this run game. But the distance that we need to travel isn't so much, and I do believe the tight end. And the tight end can come in and block right away. He might struggle to learn a little bit of this and that, but he can come in and block right away. And that is absolutely the key. You look at Allen, you keep him off the field when you take time of possession, you run the football. Rodgers, if he goes to the Jets, you keep him off the field with running the football. We're going to play bad weather games. And that helps. Look at the Bills. Fumble in the snow is not a winning formula. It's actually almost insane. And, maybe we win the division and everybody comes down to Florida, but whatever rains. You need to run the football, but we don't need to run the football as much as maybe I thought last year, or as much as maybe some people think. The distance from here to there is not really far, although it's a gulf between the two, because we don't get it. I expect a better season because of the defense, but those inconsistencies will percolate and be big problems in the postseason. And, of course, lastly, to protect Tua, I'll say it one last time, run the football. Got a quarterback that's got an injury history, whether he's injury-prone, concussion-prone, or not, he's got a history. Running the football protects him. And it's not about adding the running back. Blockers create the space for 99.9% of backs in modern football. And I don't want to, I heard Dudley Durong say that they're thinking about trading back and picking more picks. I like that, because I'm not so certain that second-round pick is going to get us the tight end we need. But we need a guy who can block. That's the key for us. And I think it will increase the run efficiency. And from there and going forward, we can have the great success we need. This was long, but I wanted to be clear. I love good information. And I think this is absolutely going to be spot on. So we'll see. I'm hoping. Hate egg on my face. Anyways, Curtis saying thanks for staying to the end. I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, subscribe. Comments mean the most. Catch you next time. Be well. Go Fins. Start building your own online sportsbook today by getting signed up with AceBread.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.